Okay, why was my account frozen? Some fraudulent activities were discovered in your account.
What if you walked into a bank to move your own money and the man behind the counter decided you did not belong there? What if, in that same moment, he felt safe enough to smile, to judge, to take control, not knowing the ground under his feet was owned by the very man he was looking down on? And what if, by the time the truth came out, it was already too late for him to take back the way he treated a stranger? Before we go any further, welcome to Silent Echo Stories. If stories like this move you, teach you, or make you see the world differently, show some love by tapping the like button, subscribing, and dropping your country in the comments. Let's see how far these stories travel. Now, let's begin. His name was Darren Cole. Most people who saw him that morning would never guess who he was. He did not wear a suit. He did not wear a watch that shined. He did not walk in with an assistant or a bodyguard. He wore a simple dark jacket, plain jeans, clean shoes, but not expensive ones. He looked like any other man in his late 30s who had just come back from a long trip and wanted to get one small task done before going home. But Darren Cole was not an ordinary customer. He was a quiet man, a careful man, the kind of man who spoke less and listened more. He had built his life the hard way. No shortcuts, no famous family, no rich parents. Years earlier, he had slept in his car while trying to grow a small finance company. He had been turned away from meetings, talked over, doubted, watched closely in stores, followed by security for no reason. He had learned to stay calm, to stay polite, to never let anger speak first. Now, his company employed over 50 people. 50 families depended on him to get paid every 2 weeks. Rent, food, school fees, medicine. That morning, he had come to the downtown branch to move funds for payroll. Nothing special, nothing dramatic, just business, or so he thought. Behind the counter sat a man named Tom Harris. White, late 40s, clean cut, short hair, straight posture. He had worked in that bank for over 15 years. To Tom, the bank was not just a job, it was power. He knew which customers had money, which ones were in debt, which ones he thought belonged, and which ones in his mind did not. Tom believed in order, but his idea of order was built on looks. He believed rich people looked a certain way, spoke a certain way, dressed a certain way, and people who did not fit that picture in his mind were always questions, problems, risks, mistakes waiting to happen. He smiled at some customers. He watched others. That morning, when Darren stepped forward, Tom's eyes did what they always did. They scanned. Not the card first, not the screen. The man. The line at the downtown branch was long and quiet. Phones glowed in hands. Soft music played from the ceiling. A security guard leaned against the wall near the door, arms folded. Nothing felt wrong. Darren waited his turn. When it was time, he walked up and placed his card and ID on the counter. "Good morning," he said. Tom gave a thin smile. "Morning." He took the card, typed, looked at the screen. Then he looked up at Darren, then back at the screen. The smile slowly faded. His fingers paused on the keyboard. Darren noticed it. "Is there a problem?" Darren asked, calm. Tom cleared his throat. "Your account is currently under review." Darren blinked. "Under review?" "Yes. For security reasons, the funds are temporarily frozen." Darren stayed polite. "That account is for payroll. I need to make a transfer today." Tom leaned back in his chair. Large movements of money trigger systems. "I make this same transfer every 2 weeks," Darren said. Tom shrugged. Systems change. Darren felt the shift in tone. Not professional, not helpful. Guarded. Cold. "Can you tell me what caused the review?" Darren asked. Tom looked around the room, then leaned slightly forward and lowered his voice. "Sir, we see a lot of suspicious activity these days, especially with accounts that don't fit the usual pattern." Darren frowned. "What pattern?" Tom hesitated for half a second, then said, "Profile issues." Darren understood. He had heard that word before. In stores, in airports, in offices. Profile, a soft word used to hide a hard thought. Darren's voice stayed steady. "So you're freezing my company's payroll because of a profile?" Tom's jaw tightened. "I didn't say that." "But you meant it," Darren replied. The security guard shifted his weight and took a slow step closer. Tom noticed, and his confidence grew. "This review could take days, maybe weeks," Tom said. Weeks. Weeks meant 50 workers not getting paid. Weeks meant bounced rent checks, late bills, parents explaining to children why there was no food in the fridge. Darren took a slow breath. "Please call your manager," he said. Tom's smile returned, but this time it was sharp. There's no need for that, sir. We'll handle it. Darren looked him in the eye. I am asking you to call your manager. Tom's voice dropped. Sir, you don't make demands here. The words were quiet, but the message was loud. Darren felt the room tighten around him. People in line were watching now. Not openly, but enough. The kind of watching that happens when something is about to go wrong. Darren slowly reached into his jacket and took out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer, he said. Tom let out a short laugh. You're free to do that. The security guard took another step closer. Not threatening, just close enough to remind Darren where he was. The call went through. Darren spoke softly into the phone. Yes, it's me. I need you to stay on the line. Tom tapped his fingers on the desk, confident, certain. He believed this man was just another customer who would soon learn he had no control here. He had no idea what was coming, and neither did anyone else in that room. The air was still. The screen in front of Tom still showed the frozen account. The silence grew heavy. Then Darren said the sentence that would change everything. But not yet. The line in the bank had gone silent. No one was scrolling anymore. No one was talking. All eyes were on the tall black man at the counter and the white banker who still believed he was in control. Darren held the phone to his ear. Then he spoke clearly so Tom could hear every word. Please inform the board that the account holder is also the majority owner of the bank's holding company. The words were calm, but they hit like a hammer. Tom blinked. Once. Twice. Excuse me, he said. Darren turned the phone screen toward him. Board documents, share records, legal filings, his name. Darren Cole, majority stakeholder. The color drained from Tom's face. That's not possible, Tom whispered. Darren didn't raise his voice, didn't smile, didn't threaten. He simply said, call your manager, now. Tom's hands shook as he picked up the desk phone. The security guard stopped moving. Customers leaned closer, pretending not to listen. The manager came out less than a minute later. Her name was Linda. She had already been on the phone with regional headquarters. She looked at Darren like she was seeing him for the first time. Mr. Cole, she said quietly, we apologize for the confusion. She shot a look at Tom that could cut glass. There has been a serious mistake. Darren nodded once. My company's payroll was frozen without cause. Linda swallowed. It won't happen again. The restriction is being lifted right now. She typed fast. Her hands were not steady. Within seconds, the screen changed. The freeze disappeared. The funds were free. The room felt like it could breathe again. Tom stood there, frozen now. The same man who had spoken about profiles. The same man who had felt safe judging. Now he could barely meet Darren's eyes. Darren ended the call with his lawyer and placed the phone back in his pocket. He didn't say anything cruel. He didn't say anything proud. He just said one thing. I asked for respect, not fear. Linda nodded. You have both. Behind her, the security guard slowly stepped back to his place by the wall. The power in the room had shifted, not because someone shouted, but because the truth had arrived. What happened next did not happen in front of customers. It happened in offices, in meeting rooms, in quiet calls with closed doors. That same afternoon, an internal review began, not because Darren demanded it, but because the board demanded answers. Why had a major account been frozen without cause? Why had a manager not been called right away? Why had a customer been spoken to the way he was? Security footage was pulled, audio was reviewed, emails were searched, and Tom's words came back. Not just from that day, from other days, other customers, other profiles. The pattern was clear. This was not a mistake. This was a habit. By the end of the week, Tom was called into a private meeting. No customers, no counter, no badge, just a table, a folder, and two people from Human Resources. He did not argue. He could not. The evidence was there. His contract was terminated. Quietly, no big scene, no shouting, just a signature. And the end of a career he thought was untouchable. The bank made changes, new training, new policies, new oversight. But the deeper change was not on paper. It was in the way people looked at the counters now, in the way managers listened faster, in the way profile was no longer said like a safe word. Darren did not seek revenge. He did not post online. He did not go to the press. He went back to work. His employees were paid on time. Life went on. But one man's world had quietly collapsed. Tom lost his job, his position, his comfort, not because someone hated him, but because his own words finally met the wrong ears. Darren never told the story publicly, but those who were there that day never forgot it. They saw a man treated as small. They saw him stay calm. They saw power reveal itself without noise. And they learned something simple. The person you judge in silence may be the one who owns the room, not because of pride, but because of patience. If this story made you pause, if it made you think, if it made you feel something real, then you're in the right place. This is Silent Echo Stories, where quiet moments carry loud truths. Tap the like button, join the family by subscribing, and tell us where you're watching from, because every story travels farther when someone chooses to listen.